So we'll record it and then, yeah, right away, and then upload it.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, so yeah, we're recording at any time. So whenever you guys want to start.
Yeah, Haley, I think you have to kick us off, right?
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're all good. All right, so my name is Haley Boss. I am a graduate research assistant for the Department of Public Administration. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Art in Public Policy in December of last year. And I am joined today by Dr. Kathleen Yang Clayton, the Director of Undergraduate Studies, as well as Sharon Hayes, an academic advisor for our department. And then as well as all of the students in the spring 2020 Public Policy 490 class. So we have two panels. The first panel is going to cover internships, everything about how to find them, where to look, and then also like how to find internships that are satisfying, even maybe paid rather than just kind of finding an internship to check the box. Additionally, our second panel is going to be sharing our story. How did we end up in the program? Some people were transfer students. We have some that did all 4 years at UIC. Obviously, we've had a lot of people transfer from other majors, so we'll be able to hear from everyone. And then I put up an Instagram post asking for direct messages if anyone that was following wanted us to answer specific questions. So throughout the night, we'll be collecting those and then answering them at the end. So I guess we can start panel 1 with Dr. Yang Clayton.
Cool. All right. This is exciting. So yeah, welcome everyone. This first panel is actually on internships, but the way we came up with these questions were that the students who are taking field placement 490 who are currently in internships or have been in internships came up with all these questions. So what I'm going to ask is we've got 6 panelists, Tatiana, Matt, Celeste, Daniela, Sato, and Nia. So could you guys in that order, and I can repeat it again. So Tatiana, Matt, Celeste, Daniela, Sato, and Nia. Why don't you guys just briefly introduce yourselves, what year you're in. We're going to assume that you're a public policy major, but you might have a different minor, so just share that. And the first quick question to answer is, what are some ways that you have informally networked with others and formally? So maybe if you give one example of an informal way that you've been successful networking and then a formal way. And we'll go through you guys. So Tatiana, would you be able to kick us off?
Yes. So my name is Tatiana Solis. I am a junior studying public policy. Right now I intern for the Obama Foundation, and I guess some ways that I would network with people informally was attend social networking, which means that I would see Facebook posts about, there would be networking, just casual networking where people would share their LinkedIn or, just talking about just similar interests. But some ways formally that I would network would be among student organizations, just going to school-wide events, just kind of connecting with professors. I feel like those are just the important ways where I felt like I could network. And then once you make those relationships, then you figure out, oh, hey, this person is offering an internship, or you should look on this website. So those are just some of the things those are some of the ways that I've networked.
Ooh, great, thank you. For those of you who have just joined us, just make
sure
that
Jesus.
Hey, Jackie. Let's make sure, go ahead and mute yourself because we're picking up some background noise from you. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, how about Matt? Why don't we go to you?
Sure, hello everyone. My name is Matthew. I am a senior public policy student here at UIC. For most of my internship, I was doing veteran and—
Wait, hold on, time out. I'm getting cross feed from someone. Did you guys hear that, or is that just me? You guys heard that?
Yeah, someone's mic was turned on. They just need to turn it off.
Yeah,
let me exit out of my other class.
Okay, all right.
Hard to do.
Thanks,
Okay.
Matt.
Yeah, so I did a veteran and then campus outreach for the Bernie campaign for most of my internship. And like formally, one of the things like we did, especially with the veterans, was just like me like going through a list of various veterans organizations and reaching out and just kind of seeing what kind of feedback I got back from them. So that was like very effective, and I connected with a lot of people who were eager to contribute either on a personal capacity or on like an organizational capacity. And I guess informally, I would just say like never burn any bridges and stay in touch with people as much as you can, because just like shooting someone a text, you know, every couple months is a good way, I feel like, to kind of have access to everyone else's network that, you know, you've spent time building relationships with. So that's worked very well for me so far, and I think I'll keep doing that same kind of strategy.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. And you know, I'll just interject. Uh, When you're talking about informal, you should also think about like clubs that you belong to that aren't in policy. So if you like flower arranging, or you know, if you belong to a Veterans Affairs, or if you own dog, right? Like those are all spaces where you can practice informal networking, right? So it's good to have those interests.
Yeah, yeah,
Celeste. Oh,
yeah, definitely. Just on like a day-to-day basis, I think it's really important to kind of look at, you know, every interaction you have as an opportunity. Definitely, that especially people who might have been in your social circle for some length of time and you maybe never contributed, you know, or considered that as a resource available to you. So.
cool. Thank you. Celeste, let's go to you. Don't forget to introduce yourself and contribute a little informal, formal.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Celeste. I'm a fourth year public policy student and I'm interning at Exelon this semester. For informal and formal networking, I would say for formal networking, definitely going to events like other people mentioned is definitely a great way to do that. But also, I love LinkedIn. Add me on there, by the way, guys. And I love just, especially old coworkers or anyone I've met at previous events. I love commenting on posts or even like sending their post back to them with a comment to like talk directly with them. I feel like that's a more formal way to do networking. Informally, I would say kind of like you said, different clubs on campus and also like coffee dates with people. You can make it an informal networking, even if it seems formal to message someone and ask them to grab coffee and you end up talking about your career. It's kind of like an informal way to get into a networking space where you're both comfortable and just sipping on some lattes.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Celeste. Okay, let's go to Daniela.
Hi everyone. I'm a first year public policy student. And then how I network with people. I would say informally, like other people have said, going to events on campus and also just talking to people like in my orgs, just what they're doing, what they're not doing, or just things they're interested as well. And then just making sure I'm keeping those connections with anybody I've like built them with. Informally, I'd say that I've reached out like through email, like if I'm interested in an organization and I'm just unsure if they have like any opportunities, I've definitely sent like several emails. And then of course like reaching out to supervisors if they have any information and just things like that.
Cool. Cool. Thank you. All right, let's go to Sado. Oh, you're on mute. We need
Sorry
to
about that. Hi, everyone. My name's Sato. I'm a fourth year public policy student. As far as formal and informal networking, formal, I'm going to just sort of go along with what a lot of other people have been saying is in reaching out through various methods, whether it be LinkedIn or email. Also, you're reaching out with like sort of like targeted reaches. What I would do is whenever I came across, for example, an interesting article on policy, I remember a couple of years ago, I read about something that the U of C professor did on a certain topic involving taxes in Chicago. So I just sent him an email, said, you know, I'm a student, this is a field of interest, and, you know, what is your take on this? And then he responded. So then that's a connect, right? So I do things like that very often. And, sometimes they don't respond, and, one has to learn not to take these things personally. It's just they're busy and they didn't get to it. But when they do, it's a connection. And then informal, I mean, I talk about politics and policy all the time to everybody. And you'd be amazed at how many people are like, I got a buddy who works for the city. I'll have him call somebody for you. And, they work in a department that's totally unrelated to something that you want to do. But still, you realize that you're a degree removed away from a lot of people, and quite a number can help you and are willing to help you, or at least put in a good word for you or give you a chance. So those are the two sort of, kind of reaching out and being aggressive with that, and then always talking about it and talking about what your interests are in everyday, life. That's helped me.
Yeah. No, great. Thanks, Sato. No, and I just want to double click on, I think that for maybe you guys are experiencing this now, but being a policy major is kind of a lifestyle choice. Like, you don't just do it for like the 35 credits that you need and then you go back home and you don't care about policy, right? Like, you find yourself going to community events that you're interested in, like education policy or in criminal justice or whatever, and it just becomes part of the fabric of your life. So often I find that with policy students that are the happiest in our program and the most engaged, it really isn't like, I'm going to stop right after my class ends. It's like they're the ones that, are emailing me about like, should I go to this meeting, or what do you think about this? And I mean, it's all welcome. So it's cool. Yeah. Thanks, Sato. Nia.
Hello. My name is Nia Fitch, but I go by Nia. I'm a public policy student, a graduating senior. I'm minoring in Earth and Environmental Sciences. And I've found that throughout my college career, the most effective means for, at least for me personally, for networking has been like the informal route. I found that my greatest resources have been like my friends, my colleagues, my professors, my teachers, my college, my Sharon, our Sharon technically, but my Sharon, and basically just the resources that, are completely surrounding me, like they're very tangible things. I've done formal networking events, like even some of the formal networking events that I've gone to because of like some of the personal connections that I've had. Like I know CUPPA was, I think last year, kind of trying to get students to go to the IML, which is the Illinois Municipal League yearly conference that they have. And they gave like a reduced price for students, which was like $20 or something like that. And I found that experience was very enriching. And I feel like I got to learn a lot and meet a lot of people and attend a lot of workshops. But as far as like actually getting internships or actually, getting, it was good for networking, but as far as like things coming out of that, it wasn't as plugged in as I thought it would be. Whereas going to that event and learning the things that I learned and going back and having these conversations with the people that I knew and I got to develop and build on those conversations, I was able to like, kind of just expand my reach and stuff like that. But
Okay.
Even just like pursuing things that you're already into, as far as like clubs and things on campus, like you never know where that's going to take you or who you're going to meet through those clubs and through those activities. So
Right. Oh, and I was going to just double click on something about clubs. When it comes to clubs, guys, quality matters. Okay, so don't go signing up for 15 clubs and then you just went to a couple of meetings kind of situation. First of all, you're wasting your time. Like at the beginning, sure, like you're trying to find your passion, your fit, but eventually you just want to drill down into one or two clubs and actually do stuff, right? Learning and building and all that. So you don't need 100 clubs. You just need like a couple that you're actually going to really like being in. Just for sake of equity, let's go in reverse direction. So we'll start with you, Nia, and then Sato, Daniela, Celeste, Matt, and Tatiana. The next question that I have down here is, how did you find your internship? This should be a good one.
So I actually, again, it was from like internal kind of connections. So my friend, Joshawn Bowens, I think he was like the president of undergrad student government maybe last year. And he was talking to me about his VP, which was, she was doing an internship with IPSI, and which is the Institute for Policy and Civic Engagement at UIC, and how she's doing a fellowship with them, the Urban Public Policy Fellowship. And I applied for that, and they ended up placing me with my internship site with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. So it was very uh, organic in a sense. So that's kind of how I found my internship with them. But I actually started another internship towards the end of this semester with the Environmental Law and Policy Center. And I found that internship through the course that I'm taking with the Freshwater Lab with Professor Haverlock. And that's kind of like another placement that I found because of kind of just having that interaction with her and talking to her about my interests and things. And she kind of just found that that would be a great placement for me, which is something that I wanted to do with them anyway. So yeah, that's kind of how I found my internships.
For me personally, I was a first year, so I was, oh shoot, I think Sato's going. I'm so sorry. I thought it was my turn next. You can go.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, the way that I got mine was, it relates to the first question actually, is I interned with the Civic Lab, which is a small not-for-profit here in Chicago that deals with TIFs and how it has a negative economic impact in terms of equity in Chicago. And so what I did was I had a list of places that I would have liked, that I'd like to, I thought to myself, okay, where would I like to intern at? Like what institutions can I learn from? And so I had made a list, and I had gotten to, I was just kind of going through it and emailing people and say, hey, do you need an intern? Would you like to intern? Could I intern for you? Would you guys, want somebody to do some free work for you? And I was emailing people from the Public Banking Institute out in California, and I was seeing if I could do something kind of like remotely for them, and they were trying really hard to get me a gig with them, and they couldn't. But they said, hey, we got somebody new on our board, and they're in Chicago, and they linked me in, and it was Tom Tresser, and he's with Civic Lab, and I ended up interning with him. So it was just that whole idea of like reaching out, being proactive, like where do I want to intern at, and kind of going and just asking, and it worked out for me.
I think I'm next. So how I got my internship was before my internship at the Barack Obama Foundation has a community leadership corps, which is like a 6-month program where they give you like basically $1,000 to commit to a community project. So I did that in Pilsen, my neighborhood. And basically what I did was I gave a bunch of like scarves, hats, and gloves to like a bunch of community members. And I was following their Instagram page when my program was done in November. And they had said like, oh, we're looking for Chicago and DC interns if you're interested. So I applied. So they had a bunch of different internships. I applied to their community engagement internship, and it was just a lengthy process, but I ended up getting the internship, and that's how I got my internship, and that's where I am right now.
That's great. Wait, did we get through everyone? Sorry, I had to go yell at my kids. Wait, Matt? Did I see Matt? Or he might have dropped off. Some of us are going to have some connection problems. Did we hit everyone else though?
I'll finish up really quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a first year, so before I got to campus, I was really interested in, like, I chose UIC because of the diversity on campus. So I was really interested in working more with students and things like that. So I looked into each of the centers, the cultural centers on campus, and I just asked for more information if they had any opportunities for like internships and whatnot. And actually at the Latino Cultural Center where I'm interning now, they sent me like more information and a link to apply to an internship, and that's exactly what I did.
That's great. Wait, this is your first year? Okay, Daniela. That's
Yeah.
so wait, so for some of you who might be watching this afterwards and you're like, wait, why are first years doing a 490? I mean, we do have there's two potential reasons. Like one is that we have some first years who are coming in who have had a lot of community based experience, or they just know exactly where they want to start interning and building up that internship track record. We also have a lot of transfer students who are not what we call non-traditional students and really prepared to take that next step with that professionalization. So they kind of come in and hit the ground running. So how about one more set of questions, right? So one was, how did you find your internship, which you guys answered. But how about, when did you know where you wanted to intern? Like, what resources did UIC offer? Like, what did you draw on? Like, what was the conversation you had with, Sharon or a professor? Or how did you know that this internship or this type of internship is what you wanted to do? Yeah.
I just wanted to comment. I think that the structure of the public policy classes is really helpful. I know that just in the classes I've taken with Clayton, I know that the nonprofit class I took with her, we were exposed to, I think, 2 different nonprofit organizations. She mentioned a third, all of which I believe were accepting interns. I've also, through different classes, had exposure to the Chai Hack Night, and they do some partnering with nonprofits, and they do interns as well, I believe. And just the structure of the classes really ensures that you get exposed to people who want interns. So worst case scenario, that you have at least something. It might not be exactly what you want, but there is always something for you.
That's actually really great. And Matt, I see you're back on. Did you drop off before you could answer the second question I posed? You're still muted.
Oh, sorry. I didn't drop off. I'm sorry. I have 2 classes right now, so I've been switching back and forth.
All right. I just want to make sure that I included everyone. So, to Haley's point, and I know I just asked, like, how did you know what the fit is? Let's make it a little more interesting, right? Like, I'm sure that there were some internships or some placements where you're like, am I really going to learn something from this placement? Or what are some of the things that you learned to pick up on when people were telling you about internships, or in internship descriptions, that helped you distinguish between internships where you felt like you were going to really learn something versus others where you're like, not so much? How about that? That might be a little more.
Asking what the turnover rate is. I've done a few different internships, and if there's a high turnover, then it might not be the best situation. But if they have interns that join and stay and end up working as full-time staff, that's definitely a sign of a really good organization.
That's okay. Why don't you guys on the panel just raise your hands if you want to, like, just jump in. Like, we don't have to go in order anymore. Like, that's a really great. Okay, Sato, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
What I would do is I would ask people, where that have interned, where did you intern and what did you do? And that sort of helped me narrow it down. Like, in terms of UIC resources, like what helped me was just going through all the classes and paying attention to kind of what really moved me, like where do I fit in public policy? And I really dig economic policy. That's what gets me the most excited. That's what gets me the angriest. I'm doing all this economic lit studies on my own. Like, I'm watching economic videos late at night just to kind of get that really strong grasp of that. And so I got that. And then in terms of interning, I'd ask people, what are you doing? Well, if going into some sort of like politician's office and answering phones would have fulfilled the task, the requirement, right? I interned somewhere and it was politically related, but that's not what I want to do. I want to do economic research and economic policy specifically. So if there was somebody that was open, like, okay, well, if you come here, he'll let you do like run numbers and kind of do research, then that'll work out. And so I was able to find the spot that allowed me to do research on economic policy, and that helped. But it was, again, knowing what you're passionate about, and then knowing how to target it and talking to people and asking, getting information like, where'd you intern? What was it like? What did you do? What did you think of it, et cetera? That helped me.
Great, great. Okay. How about one of the other, Matt, go ahead.
Sure. I would say it's important to be alert for like ambiguous language and advertisements and stuff for these internships. So you're not, a lot of times people will just be trying to get a free or low paid grunt, to do, just kind of general office work, or not what, you have set out to do an internship, to gain an actual skill or experience in what you're interested in. And I would also like just not, if you find yourself in that position, don't feel like you have to stay there. You can sit down with somebody and be like, hey, I took this internship because I wanted to gain, more experience in public policy, not just so I could get coffee or make, copies or whatever have you. And if that doesn't work, just leave. Don't feel like you have to stay somewhere that's not what you agreed to do initially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so even if it's somewhere where you're not necessarily sure if you're set on, I think it's also worth going in and, kind of just having the experience, because I know when I started with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, I was interested in them because I kind of saw what their track record was. I saw like the different projects that they had on their website. Like they had a very, their website was like very well put together, and you can kind of just see like the different things that they've done once you've Googled them. So I was very much interested in like kind of just learning from whatever it was that they had to offer, because I think almost, I don't want to say every internship, but I think every experience has something to offer, something to, gain from. And I saw that they had things specifically that I was interested, because I knew what my criteria was. Like when I was looking for an internship, I knew that I needed something that was, one, going to meet the requirements for graduation. I also wanted something that was obviously relevant to public policy, relevant to my specialization, which is environmental policy. And it had all of those different things. So I was definitely open to pursuing it. And once I got there, I feel like I learned a lot on the job. But I think one of the greatest things that I got to experience was having such a great supervisor and being able to like really interact with Brian Tompkins, and like learning a lot from him and learning a lot from the other individuals that actually work there. Because even though it's not necessarily, where I want my career to go to, maybe that's not like my career goal is to work for, just the MMC. I feel like I learned a lot and I met a lot of really good people there, and it was an amazing experience in itself. And then on top of that, some of the different projects that we did, we worked with other nonprofits, and I got to meet people from the ELPC, which is really the internship that I really wanted to have. So I got to meet them, and when I actually had like my kind of like my what do they call it? Well, I'll call it my training. When I had my training, it was virtual because of COVID, but when I had my kind of virtual training with them, and I told them that I interned with the MMC, they were like, oh, and do you know this person? And do you know this person? And we worked with her. And I'm like, yeah, I know her. I did. I had all of these different things. So we had a lot to talk about. And I find that, even though the internship itself may not be completely, what you want, or completely ticking all of your boxes, if it ticks, some major points, it may be worth, looking into, and you may gain some things that you didn't necessarily set out to achieve or accomplish.
Cool. Thanks, Nia. Okay, we got a few more. Daniela, Celeste, Tatiana, do we call on you, or you? Okay, we got Daniela. I see your hand.
I'm definitely still trying to figure that out a little bit, just because I'm a first year and I'm still like getting into internships and whatnot. But I think that one thing that really makes me want to do the internship is their mission and like what they're doing, like to serve the community, the people that they're working with. But yeah, I definitely consider their mission is really, really important, and also like getting to know the people, as I think Nia said, that that's super important, like getting to know the people, and like if I even want to work with them, like supervisors, like what their interests are, and like just seeing what they genuinely care about is always important to me as well.
So, I mean, for those of you who have taken my nonprofits class, you've heard me rant and rave about this, but you know, the reality is that the mission of nonprofits, I mean, really like salt of the earth, they are there fighting for all the right things and everything. Not a lot of nonprofits are known for their like excellent managerial skills or onboarding interns or management of interns. Okay, so don't be surprised. Like, don't take it personally. Definitely to, you know, I don't know who said that, but they don't take it personally. You know, but and also recognize that, you know, if you aren't getting what you need, that is a sign you're not going crazy. Okay, like don't let them gaslight you too, right? But sometimes it's not intentional because they're running around and trying to keep families together or from being deported or helping somebody file like for like electricity assistance. I mean, it's like all over the place. So you got to kind of balance those two things out. I have Tatiana and Celeste left.
Yeah, I'll go next. I think what helped me find out like what like internships were realistic or not for me is I know for a fact that I needed something that was gonna pay me. Like there was no way that I could work somewhere that wasn't gonna pay me. So I think just being realistic with yourself. Like I know a lot of people feel like, oh, I need an internship, I need something on my resume. But if you're gonna work at like a nonprofit or somewhere that's not gonna pay you, there's definitely been internships where they want you full time but not don't pay you. Like just don't put yourself through that if you know you need the money. Just for one, because I know that there's just been a lot of internships that I want, but they're not going to pay you, and I knew realistically I was not going to be happy there, regardless of if I felt like my resume needed that or not. So just being realistic with yourself, just going over your priorities, you know, just seeing what's manageable in that, and then also just doing your research as well. Like I know, with my internship with the Obama Foundation, I know that, you know, they're like widely known. So, you know, the Obamas are really big. So I knew that the internship was going to be legit. But then also for my position, I also reached out to a woman who was in the internship a semester before me and just seeing like how legit was it, you know, was I going to be like, you know, getting coffee or was I going to be doing legit work? So just doing your research, just going over what your priorities are. I would just say those are the main two things on finding like a successful internship for yourself, because it doesn't really matter what everyone else is doing. It only matters about what you're doing and what you need.
Cool. All right. Well, I mean, Celeste, I want to give you a chance to add another pearl of wisdom, unless you're, I mean, you're on mute, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna say mine's kind of straightforward, and to the point I knew I wanted to work in a specific sector. I wanted to do corporate social responsibility work, so I sought out corporations in Chicago, and an energy utility was right up my alley and kind of the sector I wanted to work in. So I applied for internships there and got one. So that's kind of just, it's very straightforward and to the point. Knew what I wanted to do, applied for it, and that's kind of how I found my internship.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, listen, I'm gonna do one more round, and this should be like, I'm wrapping it up. So I think we talked about this question. I really liked it. So imagine yourself 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 2 years ago. What's one thing you would like to say to yourself 2 or 3 years ago to encourage yourself, or to be like, don't do that, or go and do more of that, like whatever it is, right? Like just, you could throw yourself in a time machine and just 3 years ago say something to yourself. What would it be? And you know what? And I just want to point out for Zoom, if you go down to the bottom, there's actually a little reactions or manage participants. I forgot. I think you can clap. You can literally raise your hand right off to the side under participants. So I see Haley's raised her hand, and then we'll go to Tatiana. So let's go to Haley first.
Yeah, I just wanted to, excuse me, I just wanted to chime in and say that, you know, it is important to find a good internship placement, but also finding one, like I believe it was Tatiana that said, that is realistic. Understanding your balance, I really struggled with my last semester of college just because I had a part-time job. I'm a licensed massage therapist, and so I did that part-time. I also had, my internship going on, trying to obviously get as many hours for as long as I could with that. And then obviously just finishing up and trying to graduate some of the harder policy classes, such as 405. I struggled with that class more than I should have. But just understanding your own time constraints, because, in midterms, when finals hit, those things really start to add up, and you don't want to be someone that calls in all the time. You don't want to, not show up. You don't want to do anything that would kind of damage your professional career before it started. So just being aware of, realistically, what can you manage?
Great, great. Okay, well, I mean, one message. Okay, that was Haley weighing on the last one. Tatiana, why don't you go ahead?
If I were to talk to myself 3 years ago, I would just say that everything happens for a reason. Everything's gonna be okay. Don't compare yourself to others, because I was in community college while all my friends were in 4-year universities, and I was constantly comparing myself, but it doesn't really as I said again, doesn't really matter what everyone else is doing. It only matters what you're doing, and you need to focus on yourself. So obviously you want to find an internship. Obviously you want to be doing those things, being active, but at the same time, don't press on yourself just because things are not going your way. And I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. So, it's going to happen.
Right. That's lovely. That's great. That's a very good piece of advice. All right. How about any of the other panel members?
I'll go.
Okay.
One thing that I could have told myself, I can think of so many different things. I think I'll start with study abroad sooner. If you can, and I'm telling you, students can, don't doubt yourself. You can study abroad, but please go ahead and study abroad. You can also get internships abroad. I'm a huge advocate for that. And I think it literally changes your perspective on a lot of different things. I think at least my first experience studying abroad made me realize what I really wanted to do as far as my career was. Because before I was an earth and environmental science major, and I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do advocacy work. I knew I wanted to do things revolving the environment, but more so advocacy. And I thought, let me go into EAS because I don't want to be one of those policy people who doesn't know what they're talking about. And that's why I started off there. And I was not necessarily happy. I felt like I had purpose, but I wasn't happy where I was. And then I remember over winter break, kind of just sitting down and doing my research. And I'm like, I am in the wrong college. I need to be in CUPA. Let me reach out to one of the advisors, met Sharon, and then kind of started working on studying abroad and found a program that basically made me realize that yes, CUPA is definitely where I need to be. International studies, multilateral diplomacy, the stuff that they worked about was definitely correlating to policy itself and advocacy. And I was like, okay, if this is what the study abroad program is about, then I definitely know that this college is where I need to be, and kind of just learning what I need to learn here is definitely where I need to be. And it's more so not just the program, but the people that I met on the program. And they were poli-sci students, public policy students, public administration students, oh my God, what are econ students?
Uh-huh.
And it's you sit down and they're all these students from all across the United States, and you get to talk with them about things that you actually care about, and you learn from each other, and you're just kind of just gassing each other up to go ahead and pursue what it is that you're truly interested in. And it's having this huge encouraging feeling. And I know that meant a lot for me and helped me focus on what it was that I wanted. So
thanks.
I think students should do that.
Yes, study abroad. Wait, Sada, was that you waving at me? Is that okay? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just, I'll double up on what the last two speakers said. Definitely think about balance, whether it be, work school balance, school life balance, whatever it is, like don't bite off more than you can chew. I definitely did that a couple of times and I regret it. Also, take internships early and often. I wish I knew you could take them earlier than senior year. For some reason, I just had it in my head like, oh, it's like something you do just before you leave college. It's like, oh man, I could have been building all this experience and making extra connections and networks prior to this. And what I'll add on top of those two things that were already said is to think of the end game as soon as possible. Like what is that going to be for you? Are you seriously considering grad school? Do you seriously want? I really want to work here. I want to work there, or whatever it is. But plan that ahead. As soon I think around September, I was like, oh man, I'm done with school. What am I going to do? And so I kind of figured it out pretty quickly. But I wish I would have thought about that a little earlier. Like, what kind of place do I want to land at? Who has landed there? What do they do to get there? And then reverse engineer it. But so, as soon as possible, start thinking about like, what's after college? Is it grad school? Is it working for the government? Is it working nonprofit? Where do you want to work? Where do you want to land? And thinking about that as soon as possible, and then taking those steps and making notes. That's what I had to add.
Great. Thanks, Sato. Okay, so 3 years, you're in a time capsule. Daniela, Celeste, Matt, we're coming to the end of our 45 minutes. So I see Celeste has undone her mute button. I'm going to teach all of you how to raise your hands on after we debrief, because you're going to have to learn this. Zoom is going to be part of our lives, okay? Celeste, go ahead.
I was just going to kind of go off of what other people said relating to like work-life balance and figuring that out. I would not put so much pressure on myself because some of my most valuable things I learned were in internships and real life experiences like that, and not necessarily in the classroom. So to kind of not put so much pressure on yourself in either area, it could be the exact opposite for somebody. If they're learning more in the class and not their internship, that they feel kind of pressured to put so much effort into either one of them. So just not put so much pressure on yourself and just kind of try and go with the motions and learn as much as you can.
Great. Awesome. Daniela or Matt, I think Daniela, I see your mic is on. Go for it.
Yeah, I would say not to put so much pressure on myself as well. And also just even if I feel like I'm not qualified enough, still apply. Like you don't know what's gonna happen yet, so you might as well give it a try and like then you'll see what happens. Like I think someone else said everything happens for a reason. So if you're placed there, it'll work out, and if not, it just wasn't meant to be.
That's awesome. And Matt might be in his other class, or no, here he is. Okay. All right. 3 years ago, Matt, what's the message you would send to yourself?
I would say, what really helped me, and I got some internship offers after I'd already gotten engaged with the Bernie stuff, but just kind of for internships, like numbers is a important aspect. Like just getting yourself out there to a big enough, audience of people, because that's what it takes a lot of the time. Just your resume might have just gotten slid away or for whatever reason, but just persistence and yeah, just not giving up. And yeah, you might not get your first choice, but just kind of really staying on that and staying in touch with people even after an initial interaction. That's my advice.
That's awesome. And, I want to definitely end on time. I think one of the common threads, and I just, I don't want to speak for everyone, but, not being hard on yourself, finding the right fit, it really is about finding like what blows your hair back. What are you passionate about? What are you going to wake up in the morning and be like, I want to read about that, or I want to go to class on that, or I want to do my internship. Finding that as quickly as possible in your first couple of years of undergrad, I think will serve you in your second half. And so traveling abroad, right? Expanding your networks, like all of these things that we talked about are really avenues, new networks, new paths that you can take to discover what that passion is. So we're kind of at the end. I don't want to run over too much, but that was great. That was very engaging for me. I'm really proud of you all. So I'm going to pass it back to Haley so she can transition to this. I don't know if I was supposed to pass it to Sharon, whichever. You guys go for it.
That's great. Thank you to Tatiana, Matt, Celeste, Daniela, Sato, and Nia for participating. We really do appreciate it. And then, yeah, we'll just kind of roll into the second panel. That's with Sharon Hayes, and that kind of covers how everyone got into the program, sharing our story. So Sharon, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Haley. Hi, everybody. Miss all my faces. Um, so yes, this panel is going to be about sharing your story. So questions about the major and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get started. First question, actually, I'm so sorry. Let me introduce our panel. So on this panel about sharing our story, it's going to be Crystal, Mona, Scott, Isaac, Courtney, and Allison. So if we want to go ahead and start in that order for our first question, the first question is going to be why public policy? Why did you choose this major? In your eyes, what is the difference between public policy and political science, or public policy and public administration?
So I'll go first then. My name is Crystal Summarize. I'm a graduating senior majoring in public policy with a minor in criminal law and justice. I personally started off in public administration over at the Springfield campus. In my opinion, public administration is more of the management of the three sectors of government. So you have nonprofit, state and local, and then your government sector. Whereas public policy is very particular and in depth, in my opinion. You get to narrow down and focus on particular issues and problems that you may have within a specific area or focus area. Whereas administration, you don't really get to dive that deep. You're more so it's just management of, I guess, just management of certain roles and be doing. Political science, I think more government theory and practice. So when you think like politicians, you're not really studying the issue like you would with policy. Again, it's more so just teaching you how to fulfill the role of a practice in that specific field and implementation of something, whereas policy is again like the analysis specific issues and areas and coming to a common like what is the problem that needs to be like solved and what do we need to do to implement a program or a policy that's going to get us to a beneficial end result that's going to fix this issue. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Mona, do you want to go next?
Hi all, my name is Mona. I'm a third year public policy student with a minor in Russian. From a young age, I was always really interested in like social justice issues, whether or not I knew that it was social justice based. And my sister majored in public policy when she went to college, so I had that exposure to it. But public policy to me is vastly different than political science, just because I see political science as a more theory-based, like it's theory-based in targeting how you analyze political issues, versus public policy is more of an applied base where you learn how to solve those issues. And that's kind of what really drove me to it, was that I didn't want to just study those issues. I wanted to know how to solve them. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Swantek. I'm a senior public policy major and also a transfer student. So the reason I chose public policy, I did political science for about a year. And while I really was interested in political science, what I was really more interested in is how to create solutions for public problems and how to find those solutions. And that's something that isn't really addressed in political science. Political science often is just analyzing systems and not so much solutions. So that's really what I kind of found really interesting about public policy, is just, the analyzing and finding solutions. So yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Isaac Work. I ended up picking the public policy major after many years of doing other things. You don't really need to know going into your college career exactly what you want to do. So I took some years off before I came back to school and got some real world experience beforehand, which I recommend you do too. And public policy to me is an important major because it is more, I feel like, and I think everybody else has said too, it's a little more substantive than just studying the theory of political science or politics in general. And in particular, I'm interested in public administration through the MPA program at UIC because I think the application of policy and the management of teams that implement policy are just as important as people who study and analyze and write policy itself.
Thank you, Isaac. And Courtney? Oh. Allison, do you want to go? Oh, you're on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
So I am originally a transfer student, and it took me a while to kind of pinpoint what kind of major I wanted. I would say I changed it about 7 times before I kind of settled on public policy, which was influenced by one of my peers who happens to be my brother. Originally, I transferred to UIC as a political science major, but after some consideration and understanding what the major really entails and what it means to be in political science, I realized that wasn't for me because it wasn't so hands-on and analytic in the sense where you directly analyze the problem and come up with solutions. That's why I changed. Difference between public policy and political science. I mean, I kind of stated that political science, it's more statistic based, seeing what the population, the general population is reacting to an issue, and more so oh, this percentage of people like apples, but this percentage of people like pears and oranges, or because that makes sense. And public policy versus public administration. Well, public administration is more bureaucratically based. It's more about the procedure of enacting policy rather the procedure of trying to get it in the arena more so than figuring out what the problem is and trying to solve it, if that makes sense. You have more layers to go through in public administration and just kind of working through the different levels just to talk to the higher ups.
Thank you. That makes sense. Haley, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just thought I would chime in on the difference between public policy and public administration. So I did just graduate with a bachelor's in public policy in December and am now working on a master's of public administration. And the one thing that I have found is that public administration is so much more people-based, how to manage people. I take a lot of classes on HR, a lot of classes on managing conflict, a lot of just team building, how to work with others, how to take care of people that work for you. And of course, there is a lot of bureaucracy involved, how to communicate with other governments, how to communicate better with your coworkers. And then public policy is definitely much more, I would say, numbers based. What is this data-based policy? Can you give a data-based reason that it is working or not working? Is it inefficient? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? So I think that public administration is much more about who, and public policy is much more of the what, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Haley. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. So we'll move on to the next question here. So what resources have you utilized on campus, and which ones would you recommend? So, given you anything that CUPPA or UIC has offered you, maybe even something that you even found off campus that was a resource to you, could you share that with us? Anyone can go first. Or Allison, you want to go first? How about Crystal? How about
I'll
Crystal?
go. Sorry, Allison makes me laugh.
I know.
So some of the resources, since I was also a transfer student, I mentioned that, but it was a bit different for me. I would say, not to be generic, but Sharon, you were one of my literal biggest resources coming in, because like as a transfer, you don't really know like the ropes of anything. So I think just like from foundation, meeting with your CUPA advisor is like the best thing you can do to kind of hit the ground running. Because I was more of like a non-traditional in terms of like the type of policy I studied, I found that career services was very useful for me in terms of like finding internships because I was older and wanted to like start, you know, getting some type of field experience. I actually found 2 of my internships through that, and then also it was my second internship was more like a halfway with terms of like the type of policy work I was getting into. I know we touched earlier, but like organizations that you're a part of are also essential. One of the organizations I'm in, my advisor for that org, he actually referred me to internship and that I'm at right now with the alderman for the 7th ward, and just kind of putting in the word, helping me get those connections so that I could study and be able to like kind of look at the type of policy stuff and like how with people, you know, just kind of a different take with what I was interested in. So yeah, I think like resources, people, advisors, it could be organizations you're working with. That personally is like, I think Nitania said it, but like just intimate, informal route was better for me. And then that led me to being in a more formal and building those like relationships, and those started versus for me in a professional setting. So it was kind of like a twofold. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Definitely one of the biggest resources are your advisors. Cher can tell you how many times that she's helped me. But I think UIC is pretty unique in the way in which they offer so many resources. Side note, I also work as a tour guide for the university, so I know all of the resources. But some pretty cool things that UIC offers, we have a wellness center where they actually have a pantry for students that experience food insecurity. And right now they have a pop-up pantry going on that people can still go in and access food even with the shutdown. Another cool resource is the Math and Science Learning Center. When I took statistics, I was up in there like every week getting tutoring. They actually have like tutoring schedules online for each different math classes. And statistics is required for the major, so definitely a really great resource. Also, the Writing Center is amazing, especially as public policy is very much writing based. And the workers at the Writing Center are some of the most like trained student workers to be able to help you with writing. And lastly, the cultural centers at UIC are phenomenal. Most universities actually don't even have a cultural center. UIC is blessed with 7 different cultural centers. Just to name them off really quickly, a Latino Cultural Center, an African American Cultural Center, Asian American Resource Cultural Center, Arab American Cultural Center, Disability Cultural Center, Gender and Sexuality Center, and a Women and Leadership Resource Center. All of which have unique resources that they offer students. And they always have food in there, so they're really cool hangout spots.
Awesome. Thank you, Mona, for all that. Much appreciated. Isaac, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I wanted to add in and also just say that advisors are a great resource. And also to kind of counter what people are saying, I feel like I could have gotten involved in more on campus. you know, don't work yourself to death when you're in the program. Don't work 50 hours a week off campus, and limit yourself to what you can get involved in, because there is so much out there. And you know, after mid-March, I'm not sure how much more I'm going to get to participate in things on campus. But also in the physical CUPA building too, you know, just meeting people, kind of going off of what the first panel was saying, networking with your peers is a great opportunity. And the study area in the basement, the CUPA lounge, where I was a semi-permanent resident until mid-March, you know, use things like that when you do get to be on campus, to meet new people or just to have a kind of quiet space to yourself.
Great, thank you. Scott, did you have anything to add?
Yeah. So just like everybody said, yeah, advisors super important. And also, talking with your professors, I think, was one of my biggest resources. They helped me so much. And as a transfer student, I mean, I didn't take advantage of it enough when I was really early on in my career, like as a freshman and a sophomore. But now as I'm older, like a professor that I'm still in contact with, I email them all the time. Forming personal connections with them, and they're always like so open to help, and they want to help. All of them have office hours all the time, and I feel like most students don't take them up on that, so they're kind of just sitting there waiting for anybody to come in to talk to them. So yeah, I would say the professors have been one of my biggest resources for sure. And then also the CUPA website is also kind of awesome too. I go on that all the time. Anytime I have like quick questions or just looking for something, that usually can answer my question like right away. So yeah, I would say those are my biggest resources for sure.
Awesome, thank you. All right. So we'll go on to the next question. Thank you, everybody. All right. So I love this part of our program. Though it's only not. I think it should be more classes. What specializes did you choose, or how did you choose your specialization? I love this component because policy has so many interdisciplinary areas that it's like an endless world. When I talk about it, I kind of get really excited. I wish I could kind of actually add like a million specializations to our catalog, but that would just make it too long, so I can't do that. But we have just so many opportunities with classes on campus. So please share us, you know, your specializations. Who would like to go first? No takers?
I can go first.
Okay.
So my specialization is in health policy. It's funny because I came to UIC thinking that I was going to be pre-med, and played myself because college science is much harder than high school science, and I couldn't do chemistry. And I distinctly remember going to Sharon's office and freaking out, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I really like health. And she was like, why aren't you studying health policy or public health? And then like light bulbs just kind of went off in my head. And it just made sense that health should be my specialization. Unfortunately, there's not a public health minor at UIC, so it just kind of worked that way.
Great, thank you. Allison, do you want to talk about your specialization? Or Crystal?
Actually, Sharon, I'm laughing. I don't remember what mine was, to be honest, because remember I was so focused on my minor. So like I think it was human service.
It ended up, we called it criminal policy. We ended up, because it was a customized one. We made it a special name, but I don't remember the
I know. The one I know my specialization was like, it was like human services or something.
Oh, social welfare. I think you were doing social welfare policy. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my specialization, social welfare. But yeah, I guess that kind of just kind of jump started me to be able to dive deeper into getting the minor that I have. But yeah, I don't really know what much to say because my minor plays such a role in like the type of policy work I do. So yeah, social welfare kind of helped me to be able to still take those classes because I care so much about like, you know, just issues like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Like social justice issues regarding policy. But yeah, that's why I chose that specialization.
But what about your minor? Why don't you tell us about your minor? Because I know it's so embedded in what you do.
Yeah, okay, so my minor is criminal law and justice. I'm pretty big on police reform and prison reform. I really want to get into policy and work with issues regarding like the social justice institution as a whole. I think that there are a lot of wrongful policies that are in place against people of color, and especially within like communities, lower income communities, like the school to prison pipeline system, things like that. So that is, I'm really split half and half. Like I think that in any field, like in any policy area that you say, like the same thing with health policy, like yeah, we're studying like policy issues, but you know, what policy issues are you doing and what field are you going to go into? So like the same thing with healthcare, like for me, policy work and like I guess just issues in general are so kind of closely related to how we enact laws and implement laws eventually. That just really fascinates me, and I want to, I don't know, like I just really am so big on advocacy for the people as a whole and not wanting to have like wrongful, I guess like wrongful behavior, wrongful laws and policies that are enacted on them based on biases and just racism in general. So I want to be able to uh, have a role, and even if it's a small part, in changing the system as a whole and partnering with the system to be able to implement programs that are here to slowly eliminate those, you know, wrongful biases that we have in our system.
Great, thank you. Elson?
Yeah. So my specialization, I found it by accident. You could say my specialization found me. My specialization is in urban studies. Originally, I wanted something more public health based, but because I had taken classes that had pointed me towards urban studies, that's just kind of the route that I took because I was already going that way. But I'm kind of glad that I did because I think urban studies, it's so broad because it does focus on like different types of settlements, like cities or suburbs or like rural areas, and then you kind of get to nitpick what exactly like you want to study in that area, whether it be like, you know, social issues, transportation issues, like sewage and water. And that was like kind of something that I found that I like grew to enjoy, even though it wasn't something that I consciously chose.
Great, thank you. Isaac, you want to go?
My specialization is in social welfare policy, and I think what I've enjoyed about the whole specialization aspect of the degree is being able to customize the classes that you can take. There are some classes listed on the CUPPA website that kind of give you a baseline to go off of, but I've switched some of mine around a little bit just so I feel like I have a better grasp on what it is that I actually want to do. And you know, you can kind of create your own, to chart your own course, as a couple other people have said. Just be open to that. It's not a rigid set of guidelines that you have to take these classes in this order. So you know, explore through the catalog a little bit and really take advantage of all the different class options that we have. And it will depend on what's being offered the semesters that you're at UIC and all that too, but there are a ton of options to choose from.
Great, thank you. Mona? Oh, no, wait, sorry, Scott.
Yeah, so my specialization just kind of came about with the classes I had taken at other institutions. Just as a transfer student, I went to, I think, like 3 or 4 different institutions. So I had a lot of credits coming in. So yeah, working with Sharon to trying to choose that specialization. I believe we ended up on like a foreign global specialization, which I actually really like. It would allowed me to kind of like retain a lot of that knowledge that I had learned when I was taking like political science classes. So, and being able to use that in public policy, I think is really important to understand how other people are doing things and how other countries come up with their solutions. Yeah, I think is really interesting. But yeah, all the specializations are really cool, and there's so many different classes that you can take for it. That it's like kind of one of my favorite things about this major.
Great. Thank you. All right, let's move on to our next question. So we, as you guys all know, have a ton of minors on campus. I know not all of you chose to do one, but for those who have, or maybe wanted to do one and didn't have time to or whatnot, what would be what's a good minor that furthers, your public policy goals? Kind of as I was putting it with Crystal's conversation of her specialization, her minor in criminal law and justice, that kind of is easily embedded into what she wants to do. And so I kind of already discussed that a little bit. But if there was another one, or if you want to go into further discussion, Crystal, of yours, that's just a good example of kind of what we kind of want to get out of this question.
I won't drag on any longer. I just wanted to add that being in my minor opened a lot of new doors for me in terms of other faculty as well. Not only using my couple of faculty as a resource, but also to work with the CLJ department and learn more and get their insight policy issues within, like I said, the CLJ institution. They have taught me a lot on why I want to go so much more into like, pursuing probably a graduate in the CLJ department. But yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who are like former police officers, people who have done just like the academia route, who've become professors. Other people worked in other like parts of local government and how they connect policy issues to, like the justice system. And I guess that it's just taught me a lot and opened my eyes a lot of like, wow, okay, so you guys do so closely use policy with law and how you study law and just like the issues as a whole. So I guess like my minor, being in my minor and just taking those classes and learning more about not only like, just law as a whole, but just issues in general. Yeah, I guess it's just really prompted me to see more and learn more on like how closely policy is studied in all different institution settings.
Great. Thank you. Anyone want to jump in that did a minor? I think Mona, you did a run in Russian, which not directly, but could be.
I think a minor that furthers your goals and interests in public policy is a minor that essentially works towards those goals. Like on first glance, like Russian doesn't seem like it would, further your goals in public policy, but I'm actually really interested in public health in Central Asia. And Central Asia was formerly occupied by Soviet Union, so knowing Russian is like really vital in that. And it actually, 2 summers ago, well, last summer, I had received an internship to work at the US Embassy in Uzbekistan. Unfortunately, didn't work it because I didn't get my security clearance, but I think I got that because I'm studying Russian. So definitely like your minor can work with you in different ways.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah.
So I have a minor in art, and the only reason why I chose that is because I have an art background, and that's something that I'm interested in. And I think your minor should be something that could obviously supplement your policy background, but I also think it should be designated towards something that you're interested in. So I have, art as a minor, but like, what can I really do with that? And, it got me thinking like, what can it be applied to? And it made me think that, oh, I could, think of art access, because art is one of the first things that are cut from a school budget, especially if like they have low funding, and just to be able to maybe partake in like a nonprofit that provides that kind of service and like outlet for children who do not normally have that, is like something that you could kind of morph your minor into. And I think with any minors, especially in like public policy, you could kind of figure out where it is placed, because like public policy is such a big avenue to like explore.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely. Go ahead, Kathleen.
I mean, I love the fact that you raised it. I think, just as a hopeful wish in the future, a lot of the policy work that I've done that I've enjoyed the most is when it's overlapped with the arts. And I've always wanted a minor. Like, I'm 3 years in, so give me a few more years, but it would be great, great, great to have a real solid minor for arts majors so that they can get some of the skills that they might need. Because a lot of theaters, museums, all these these performance places, like, they're 501c3s, and they need people who know the art side or the creativity side, but who also may know how to balance some books or write a grant or write a report that gets them more money. All this stuff is so connected. So I love the fact that we were able to work with you, but we could definitely be more intentional about how we support that.
Yeah, because I even at the master's level, advising so many students over the years, you're dead on, Kathleen, that embedding things within the arts is sometimes how students find us. It's actually coming from their background, from their need, almost their need to survive, to do what they're so passionate about. So, anyone else? Scott, I don't think you did a minor. And Isaac, you didn't do one either, right? No. Okay. So looks like we're wrapping up our last question. Good timing. All right. So with this last question, let's go through what have been some difficulties you have encountered throughout your time in the program. This happens to everybody. Trust me, happens to me every day. So, any difficulties that willing to share, and the idea is just, so that we can see, maybe, have an idea of maybe what to look out for students, or things that maybe could be better in the program to help support you in some sort of way. Anything that you feel like, was just a difficulty that, can make another student aware this could happen. Crystal, you want to start?
Yeah, I think for me, with our program in particular, like I said, it wasn't until I got to my minor where I started to meet other people. But I think because we don't really study or like at first glance say like criminal justice policy, I think that was very difficult for me at first, like my junior year going into my senior year. It's like, it took, I was very like set on, okay, I'm gonna find the resources that I need so that I can get from point A to point B, and I was gonna do whatever it took, like contact whoever I needed to contact. But I think that's like one of the biggest challenges I had within the program, kind of being like the only one in Cuppa. I didn't really meet other students. Everyone was like health, education, just things like that. And I was like the lone wolf in that sense. But I think if we, like, I guess my point is that when I went into my minor, I met so many people that were interested in policy, but they never took our route because it wasn't like I said, at first glance, seemed like it was offered that we would be able to still study policy and then have that interest area in criminal justice policy. So yeah, I guess like it turned some of the students at UIC away because they were like, well, I'm interested in this, but I want to study policy. I don't know if I'd fit in, but I'm like, no, you would fit in. Like, I did it. We can do it. It's fine. There's avenues to take. But yeah, I think that was like my biggest like challenge was like, okay, am I in the right space? And I'm like, no, I am in the right space. I just have to kind of maneuver my way around to figure it out. And eventually we got to a common solution. But yeah, that was like a pretty tough third year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you. Mona, do you want to go next?
I think the greatest difficulty I faced in the program was like the 400-person classes in statistics and economics, but also like understanding that those professors are not in CUPA, and math teachers have a very different style of conducting the classroom. I also just underestimated how hard econ is. It sounds really easy, but like economics is math.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I really, really struggled in economics when I didn't think I would. So understanding like when I needed to go and get tutoring or go to the professor's office hours was really critical.
Thank you. How about you, Scott?
Yeah. As a transfer student, I feel like I had a lot of my difficulties and like mistakes like earlier on before I came to UIC. But yeah, just like sharing some of those, I guess, before I got here, maybe kind of what Mona was saying. And there's definitely like some tough classes that you're going to have to take. So knowing the resources that are there to help you. So office hours, tutoring, even like talking with other students in your classes and stuff like that. Sometimes people get like study groups together or I don't know, talking with peers sometimes really helps in terms of like understanding material. They can kind of present it to you in a different way. But yeah, that I think taking advantage of those resources, I always knew they were there, but I never, for whatever reason, never took advantage of them. But yeah, definitely here at UIC, like, yeah, definitely like just capitalizing on using those resources is I think will help you kind of get away from some of those difficulties for sure.
Great. Thank you. All right, Isaac, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Couple of things real quick. One, there is a lot of group work in these classes. There are a lot of group projects, and this semester I have had five of them, and that is very difficult. So you will get used to working with people, even if you don't want to, and very comfortable managing groups of people. And it gets better as you move up in the classes too. A group project in a 100 level class is going to look very different from a 400 level class. And then the other thing, this doesn't really pertain to me as much, but I found coming into the program that there were some students who were discouraged by the amount of just general info that other policy students knew coming into the program. There are a lot of transfers and a lot of non-traditional students, and some people have just been obsessed with politics from the time, before they could even vote. So they seem to know everything about everything, and I know a few students have talked to me about this. They were discouraged that they didn't know enough, or they weren't going to learn because of that, because other people were farther ahead of them. Just know those people are in the minority, I feel like, and you're going to learn a lot in this program. And as you go through it, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, you do gain a lot from these classes, and you will be one of those people that gets talked about by the new incoming transfers eventually. So that's it.
Thank you. Allison?
So to Isaac's point, I kind of am one of those people who got discouraged, like in my like area of study. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I mean, like even with this class, I didn't even get the internship that I was supposed to because of like whatever happened, like it was in talks. And so just hearing what everyone else was doing, how much they're contributing to like, the type of learning that they were, I felt like I was missing out or like I wasn't doing enough. And even so, like sometimes aspects of getting an internship and maybe even like making change like in a policy realm kind of seemed inconceivable. But I mean, that's like thinking on a grander scale. but that was like my difficulty, I guess, like in this program was trying to not compare myself to other people and going at the rate that was like comfortable for me and the things that I wanted to learn and was interested in compared to like somebody else. Also, like something that I had difficulties with would be like asking help, especially asking for help, especially in regards to like econ, like micro econ is ridiculous, and especially like stats is like it's so difficult, especially if you don't have that sort of background and weren't necessarily like expecting that. So yeah, and also networking, just getting comfortable talking to your peers and understanding like, you know, you guys are coming from different backgrounds and like amounts of knowledge, but also using that idea to kind of collaborate and also like learn from it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Allison. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for, piggyback on what Isaac said, because I think we all have all felt that way at some point, It's good to know, how that comes about and how you can overcome it. So thank you. And I appreciate you guys answering all those wonderful questions about your stories. I think we're wrapping up the panel now. Is that correct, Haley?
Yeah, that looks about right. Thank you to Crystal, Mona, Scott, Isaac, Courtney, and Allison for sharing their story. We definitely appreciate it. So just in closing, we did have a couple of questions that were direct messaged to us on Instagram. So anyone can chime in, and these aren't necessarily related to the material covered, but I just figured we would answer them nonetheless. Any of the students can join in. But the first one we got, so there's three. The first one is, is it worth it to get a public policy minor? Is it worth the trouble to, take the classes? Does it help your career in any way? So anyone who wants to comment on that, go ahead.
If you're not sure what the minor is, because we're all majors here, the minor includes PPAL 210, PPAL 307 requirements, and then you just take one elective in public policy and then 2 courses off a very long selective list that's outside the department. So 15 credits.
Okay, perfect. I do have.
Uh-oh. Haley, we can't hear you.
Oh, there's a bit of a lag. Haley, your sound is off. We can't hear you.
And we're currently getting hit with a big storm, so that's super helpful for my situation. But I had super unfortunate. I have a friend who graduated, but they were trying to get into med school, and they felt as though the public policy minor was really helpful in kind of their pre-med kind of application, looking really good on paper, but then as well just having the understanding of policy as well.
Right. Oh, whoops. Yeah, I mean, I say this a lot. You guys have probably heard me say it, but for pre-meds or econ majors, or even those who are in computer science or engineering, I mean, you guys all know this, but policy is everywhere. Okay, like if you want to go work in a hospital, there's a whole bunch of rules within the internal environment of that hospital, regulatory bodies, they're going to tell that hospital what to do, public health, right? So, once a student really, you want them to be passionate. So to Allison's point, right? It's like, if you want to go and be a theater major and build sets, go do that. You should absolutely do that. But getting a minor in public policy might give you some insight into the way arts and theater companies are funded. What foundations are out there that support the arts? What does what kind of policy do we have for arts-based programming in schools? Like, all that stuff kind of opens up when you get the basics of policy down, and then you can kind of apply that a little bit. Like, you won't become a as well trained as you guys are, but it's enough for you to start detecting those patterns that we want you to see institutionally.
Great, thank you. So the next question is possible careers. When you graduate with a bachelor's in public policy, what can you do with it? Does anyone have comments on what they would like to do, what they would enjoy doing, I guess? I know that most of you are still in school, obviously being in 490, but just, what have you found? What are you looking forward to doing, I guess?
Yeah. So, yeah, for me, I'm currently doing an internship for Senator Tammy Duckworth here in Chicago. So yeah, like possible career choices. There's there's a lot of work politically, right, with like directly for representatives, right? But then there's also a ton of just government agency bureaucracy work, and then there's also like public sector work, right? A lot of companies have public policy. They have a need for people that know public policy. They like for or just for an example, like Uber and Lyft, they have to hire public policy majors to understand the policy of certain cities or states, and whether they'd be able to operate there and things like that. So public policy is there's really just a ton of options, honestly. And it's really kind of comes down to what you're looking for. So for me, like I do want to work for like a representative. I find like the work that I've been doing for Senator Tammy Duckworth's been extremely rewarding, and I'd love to do that, going forward. But yeah, I think whatever your interests are, I feel like there's something you can find with a public policy degree.
Yeah, I think that's great. I would agree with that. My fiance works in technology. He's a computer nerd. He gets all of that stuff, and they were recently talking about needing people on one of his Zoom calls, needing policy people that understand internal, with this COVID stuff, internal grants and funding, and trying to figure out what they're going to do in response. They needed people to be able to quick and respond to the situation, and what are the next steps and what makes the most sense bureaucratically and in regards to policy. We can move on to the next question if no one's.
Haley, I think Isaac had his hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't see
That's
that.
okay. I know you're lagging, so I just wanted to make sure it could.
Yeah.
That's fine. I wasn't sure if you could see it either.
Sorry about that.
I wasn't sure what I wanted to do going into the program, but I have always wanted to either run for office or work in the political field. I work right now in the public sector. I work for the city of Chicago in the zoning bureau, and doing like cannabis dispensary application audits, and that's great. I love working in the public sector. That's something that I'd like to do, but I think really my passion is getting out there and working on campaigns, and maybe eventually running for office. So there are a number of things you could do with the degree, and leave it kind of open-ended. Even if you think you know what you want to do, there's so many things you can do with the degree. That's all.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Does anyone else want to comment? Have their hand up? I don't see anyone, but okay. And then the last question we got was more information on the joint degree. So just to clarify, that is a program that we have with the department where you can either do, the Bachelor of Public Policy, and then we do have 3 graduate degrees, the Masters of Science in Civic Analytics, the Masters of Public Policy, and the Masters of Public Administration. You can do a joint major with any of those 3 programs. I'm not sure if that is applicable to other majors within the college, I guess. But yeah, so there is, Sharon will be able to say more about that, but I believe there is 9 credit hours that are shared between the graduate program and the Bachelor's of Arts, which is very helpful with things like funding and then also just getting it done quickly. That's currently what I am. I am a joint major, so I finished my bachelor's with, I think, even maybe 10 credit hours of graduate work already done, and I felt like it was really helpful in kind of easing me into the transition into grad school, as well as helping me understand that when I got to grad school, what did I want to do? You know, what did I like about public administration? What did I not like?
Yeah, and to kind of jump in about the requirements, Haley's dead on. Between the programs, you get to share between 9 to 10 credit hours between both programs. Kind of gives you a leg up about 3 courses into the master's program by the time you start. And our students currently that are doing it are graduating on an average of 1 year, 3 semesters. Some are taking maybe 4 semesters if they're doing it part-time, 5 or 6 semesters. That's ultimately up to you about how you want to take those classes. But it does accelerate your degree, make it, a little bit like not only quicker but cheaper if you depending on funding opportunities for yourself. And if you're ready for it and it's definitely worth it. If you're ready to go get your feet wet in some work, go for it. You got to just kind of decide what the best choice for you is. And Haley was correct. We have the 3 joint degree programs now that we have the new master's programs, but the CUPA is also opening up crossovers. So what's going to happen, students in the program starting, I don't know if it's effective next year, I have to find out, but students in public policy could actually get a joint degree in Masters of Urban Planning and Policy. So it will cross over to them as well. So that's going to be another option open very soon as well.
That's great. Is anyone else, just curious, you don't have to share, is anyone else in the call a joint degree major at all? Anyone else can speak to it? No?
Yeah. I am planning on doing it. I'm applying in the fall for grad school. So I think it's a great program. And, like you said, you can take shared credits in between the two. And something I would just recommend getting involved in if you're going to do the graduate program is the GIS classes that UIC offers. There are a ton of them. And there's a graduate level professional certificate that you can get. I think it's the GSAV certificate program, and that is an excellent skill to have. It will make you even more marketable with whatever graduate degree you have. So definitely recommend taking advantage of that too.
Yeah, and Isaac, you're the second student to be doing that GSAV certificate. So we got Liam doing it right now in the program, and yourself. So it is a great partnership that you can kind of build out those credits while you're an undergrad. Know that you're going to get not only your 2 programs, your 2 degrees, you're also going to get that professional certificate as well.
I just wanted to flag, Jackie had a question. Does this class 490 count as a joint class to one of the degrees?
Yes, it can. Yes, correct, Jackie. Yes, it can. Yeah, so anything at a 400 level can transfer over to the graduate program. So PayPal 405, PayPal 490 are already built in for you. So, if you decide to do the joint degree, you're technically not even adding on any classes other than one to transfer over to the master's program. I, kind of try to advise you, customarily, like based on what you're trying to do with the master's programs, and maybe advise you to take one other class, maybe another one as a senior, just to kind of get you ready, depending on which program you're choosing. But yes, you can definitely carry over any 400 level. So it's nice that 2 classes already exist in the program requirements.
And I know that, Jackie, you've got a lot of work experience and just, neighborhood experience. So the master's in public administration could be a really good fit. I've often struggled, and, Sharon and I have talked about this. This is just my experience so far with students who are straight from high school to 4-year university, and then they're like, I don't know what I want to do, joint program, and then they think that the MPA is a good idea. The MPA, guys, is the MBA of public administration. Most MBA programs that are, gonna put you through your paces don't even want you to apply until you have a couple of years of experience. in the world doing things. And I've been kind of going back and forth, and I really do want to see if our department can set a bit of a standard around that, because that's why if you're a transfer student, right, if you're non-traditional, you had to go work and you know have had to deal with people and things. An MPA is great, but what's great is that the other 2 degrees, the MPP, absolutely you do not need work experience. Like if you really love crunching numbers and GIS and just analytics, definitely you can do the joint degree as a traditional student in MPP or the Masters of Science in Civic Analytics as well, because you're not necessarily being thrown into the mix of having to manage or supervise people or competing with people who have that work experience right out of the gate. So I would just have you guys consider that a little bit, like weigh your options.
Yes, and you definitely want to come off with having I always tell students that you can't stop your internship at the undergrad level. You gotta do one at the grad level. You gotta build out some experience. You gotta continue working that, and hopefully you can be exposed to the same components of CUPA, but at the more professional grad level. And that's kind of what our goal is, to make sure. And you can still get more course credit if you really want it for $490 at the grad level. If it pushes you to do it, take it, right? But you definitely want to build out the skills. And I do agree. I do understand what you're saying, Kathleen, because that is mostly a lot of the requirements on jobs these days.
Yeah. All right.
Great, guys. Thanks for sharing. I definitely just want to also say that all of the FAFSA is applied. So if you do your credits, your 9 credits of undergraduate work, your graduate work during undergrad, you can use your FAFSA, for example, any kind of funding source that you get. The FAFSA you don't get the Pell Grant when you have a bachelor's degree. You're no longer able to receive that. And when you are in undergrad, you are able to use that. But like Dr. Yang Clayton said, it's definitely for students who, know what they want. I was a non-traditional student. I didn't even start my undergrad until a year and a half after I graduated high school. And then I, did go to a community college and, do all those steps. So I felt definitely ready, but it's also a lot. It's way more than I anticipated it being even. And so it's definitely nothing to take lightly, I guess, for sure. But if there are no other comments about that, then I just want to say thank you to all of the 490 students for joining. We so appreciate your involvement in making sure that, we can still kind of help potential students, help current students, newly admitted students, in kind of understanding this program, understanding, kind of what we are, our students. And if you are comfortable, you could even maybe comment on some of our Instagram posts, maybe our username. So other new students can get in touch with you, maybe ask questions, completely, if you're comfortable with that. But, just kind of making yourself available to those students who are incoming, definitely those who want to get involved in policy. I think that would be kind of a nice thing to do. Is there any last comments from students? Anything anyone else wants to say?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everything.
Don't leave. Don't leave. Everyone stay after we stop recording.
Yes, everyone stay around. And then also, I just wanted to give everyone a chance. Is there any upcoming events in the department? I know that there's the Public Policy Student Association, the Roosevelt Institute. Those are, through the department. But even on campus, but outside of the department, maybe the cultural center somewhere is having some kind of virtual event. Just anything that you would, like to plug. Now is your chance.
There on Wednesday, oh crap, it's the African American Resource Center. I don't know which one it is, but they're doing a COVID-19 online like teach-in, and so I'm looking for it right now, but the Asian American Resource Center had one on Friday, and I found it really empowering to just participate as a participant, just to listen to students who are really concerned about the upswing in racism and just, you know, the attacks and the intersectionality. Like I was so proud, like, because just the Asian American Students Association like ran that, and I'm pretty sure I'm looking for it now, but I can't multitask. But it's on Wednesday, and I can't make it because I'm on in another webinar. But it's like 2 to 3:30. So check your emails. They've been blasting it out like multiple different centers.
Awesome, thank you. So I think that's kind of where we're going to end the official panel. Obviously, we are asking all of the 490 students to hang around. We still want to talk to you, so don't go anywhere yet, but that's kind of the formal end of our panel for tonight.